Shalom. Hello, brethren out there. This particular day, I just want to encourage everyone out there in Yasra'el that you might stop the fighting, and stop the division. And well, mostly I want to encourage everyone to stop dragging their worldly beliefs into this. The racism, the division, all of these things are being dragged into this. And I want to encourage everyone to stop dragging these things into it. We don't need this stuff. Look, this is a time that is both frightening and wonderful because more and more people are hearing the Father call them out. Now, we've seen that he has been calling some of his back to the land for quite some time. And yes, some of those people there have been called back there, even if they have not yet taken the Mashiach. But there is a big movement right now to get Mashiach back over there. Now, of course, we're going to have to battle with some of this because some of these people are accepting the false Mashiach, that JC guy that the Roman Catholics have brought to them. So that's what I want to encourage today is leave all of your traditions of men and your beliefs from the paganity and wherever else you're dragging them in from. Scientism, all of it's false. You've been fed a false narrative, a false doctrine by all of these. And a lot of people come into this and they find that they have this new knowledge and they know Yah and they see him and they love him and they want to know him more, but they kind of remember everything they learned from the place that they came before. And they think, but this was all felt really loving and kind and all the rest of these things. And so it couldn't be all wrong. But I want to encourage you to throw it all out. Whatever your belief about the Nabi, that's what we renamed the pagan word prophet. Whatever your belief about the Nabiim that you read, Daniel, Obadiah, Yoel, Hasson, any of these things that you read, that you studied, that you are pretty sure you're right there, that you've got it, that when you were a goy, when you were outside of the camp, when you were not following the Torah, you had studied these things. I was one of you. I studied them extensively. I believed I had nailed down most of this stuff. I had to go back and revisit it. And what I found is I had to throw everything I thought I knew away. And once I did that, I found that it was a lot easier with a blank slate to learn. Especially when I picked up the Hebrew and started learning the Hebrew and went into the Hebrew words and started really learning what those words meant and then put them in context with the rest of Scripture. As I did that, I found that a lot of the Scripture that we think says one thing doesn't say that at all. It doesn't seem to fit anywhere else because by itself, it doesn't make any sense and there's no witness to it. And if nothing else, we find that Scripture witnesses to itself over and over again. Throughout. That's how we know contextually how to take certain verses. If it stands alone and the only thing you can pull on is, say, a Talmud or a Mishnah or any of these other teachings, then you've got some issues you need to look at. Probably interpretation, more than likely translation. And so you've got to look at all these things. But I encourage you, brothers and sisters, coming into this, if you're coming out of the cirque, the churches, the circuses, and you were pretty sure you had a pretty good grasp of things and you just transposed proper names over top of the names that you were calling them, I'm here to tell you there's a good chance that your understanding of Scripture is erroneous. What we Tertullian renamed the New Testament is not a New Testament of anything. First of all, it's a witness and testimony to the Tanakh and all of the other writings. So I encourage you to take it as such and understand that they're quoting from the only thing they would have taught out of, and that would have been mostly Torah, and then, of course, the writings in the Tanakh, which would have helped you understand who the Mashiach was, and the Aleph Tah, and all of these other things that they pointed out. You would have found that these wonderful, wonderful, wonderful writings all pointed to what was right there before them. So this would help to build their faith and their belief to understand that he would come. The son of Yahweh was exactly that, the son of Yahweh, the prophet that was unto like Moshe. It would also witness to the fact that what was to come in the future as well would help give them greater understanding of the writings, the scriptures of Torah, Tanakh, and all the other writings. So we need to stop pulling our Christian beliefs in with us and say it's okay to keep some of these. They're not all bad. I'm not saying that they are all bad. What I am saying is that you've been trained in how to play golf and now you're on a baseball field. So if you're going to play baseball and you only know how to swing a golf club, there's a good chance, even though you know how to swing something in your hands and hold it a certain way, you're probably not going to do as well as you think. You really must. When I was in the Army, they taught us to let go. If you knew how to fire a weapon, they would tell us, if you fired weapons over and over again, we have to actually break you of all your bad habits before we can build you back up. In other words, they had to wipe the slate clear, get you out of all the habits that you had and the preconceived notions on how to do things so they could build you back up from scratch. So they would wipe the slate completely clean and start back over. And this was actually the best way to train somebody. I find that absolutely is true. Once I let go of all my preconceived notions of what Scripture said as I believed it to say, and said, let's go see what it really says. And I encourage you, read the Tanakh, read the Torah, read the writings. I know a lot of people reject those writings. They talk about the canon. Again, not Catholic. Don't care about what the Westminster Confession, when the Freemasons of the England, Scottish Rite, combining themselves together, the Freemasons from both. You had the Protestants and the Catholics. They were both a Freemasonry group, and they actually got together and they said these other writings are sacred writings and secret knowledge that it is not fit for consumption for the lay people. That would be you and I. So they blended. They said, we're going to chop all these other books out. Otherwise, we don't want to come play in your group. And so the Catholics, of course, capitulated and said, that's fine. We have no problem with hiding more information from the masses, that we're already hiding the translation, the Father's name, the Son's name, and all of the Nabi, and all of the Nabiim, and all of the writings in the Tanakh, and all the other writings that they've already were willing to hide from us. So they had no problem with any of this. So they did. The Westminster Confession got together. They chopped it down to the 66 books that we have before you, and who knows what else they kept out of it. So I would say read those things. Read Yashar. Okay? Just understand that when you're reading it, if you find something that seems very out of place, understand that the Pharisees of that day and the Catholics who were working with them closely probably manipulated some things in all of the books. Well, guess what? All of the books have had manipulation. That's why it warns you twice in Deuteronomy, once in Mishlei, Devarim and Mishlei both do it. Hazon, or renamed Revelation. That is why it tells you do not add or take away from the book. And that's why we don't call him by the G word or the L word, or why we don't call him by the JC, because that is both adding and taking away directly against the direction of the very book you profess faith in. So we don't do those things. It warned you about the lying pen of the scribes. It warned you that these things would happen. But it also told you that men's hearts would seek in the last days, that they would be seeking and that they would find. I know it was transliterated or translated as they would be going to and fro, and people told you it was mass transit and travel of airplanes and whatnot, but it does not say that at all. It actually says that they would seek to gain knowledge and that they would find it. And I'm paraphrasing, obviously. I don't have the Hebrew right in front of me, but I'm telling you right now that if you are seeking the Father, if you're praying for Him to fill your understanding, be willing to let go of all your preconceived notions. Wipe the slate clean. Do not hold on to any of your Christian beliefs, even if you've studied the Nabaim, what we renamed the prophet, which means to tell fortunes, prophecy, which is fortune telling. Greek words, look it up. It's true. I would recommend that as you look at these things now with fresh new eyes and say, okay, what would it have meant to those people at that time in light of all of the other writings and all of the Tanakh and all the writings? Put them together, sit down and say, I am going to accept what Yah shows me and what he gives me, even if it blows everything I thought I knew out of the water, even if I found out I was wrong about everything and I have to go back and make apologies to people I may have misled. Even if I look silly, who cares? So I encourage you to drop the pretense of the world, scientism. That's a long one we could get into, believe me. Scientism is a religion. If you believe anything that you've been taught in scientism, which is just pseudoscience, read the quote from Tesla, where he very plainly said that today's scientists are nothing more than beggars and homeless people dressed in purple robes that everybody's worshiping as a king. They just use mathematics to dazzle you, mathematical equation upon mathematical equation. Now, that was back in his day. They were already doing that. And that's how he felt about Einstein and all the rest of them. He knew that they weren't really scientists. They couldn't do anything that you could observe. If you can't reproduce it and observe it for yourself, there's a good chance it's nonsense. And don't hang on to it. Be willing to let go of everything that you think you know about science and fact, because most science is fiction, because it is not a fact. If it cannot be observed and reproduced, then it's fiction. A theory is just that. It's a fiction that we've all agreed to. It's just like history. It's just like the value of money. These are nonsensical make-believe stories that we tell one another, and then we just agree. Guess what? A dollar bill that you have in your wallet, it's not worth anything. We agree it's worth $1, although it spends like about 5 cents. But it's just paper and ink. It really actually has no real value to it. And against what? So value comes not from without, but from within. The value is in the word of Yah. Your life is in the word of Yah. Your safety, your security, love, it's all in the word of Yah. It teaches you all of these concepts. All of these precepts are in there. His right rulings, his judgments, his instructions are all in there. That's where you find value. There is no value in anything of the world. And holding on to any of this worldly stuff for any reason is simply at enmity with Yah. So if you're seeking Yahuwah, you have to let go of all the stuff you think you know. You have to let go of all the scientism and all of the pseudosciences and all the rest of the things that you think you can tie in. Stop blending and syncretizing. You have to let go of all your religious beliefs and all your scriptural religious beliefs and go study it out as though it's the first time you're ever reading it and seeing it. Take everything in and gain an understanding. Just be aware that people have put their hands on this stuff and have tried to make it say what they want it to say. Yah will give you understanding through the Ruach. His Kodesh Ruach will help you in understanding this. If you pray for understanding and you truly, truly want it, he'll flood you with it. Now, if he knows you're going to have trouble with some of this stuff, you might come slower to some. But if you're really, really a blank slate to where you're like, whatever you show me, I'll accept. If I can bear it out, if it's something that I can test every spirit and say, yes, this is definitely of Yah, then it's fantastic and everything's wonderful. But I'd say let go of all your hatred, your racism, all the things that are going on in your life. Sorry, guys. My poochie are letting me know that it's time for someone to be coming home. Let's see if we can. Poochies. There they are. Look at those beautiful little doggies. Hey, poochies. They're our little shofars. We love them. Anyways, it's just an encouragement, a video just to encourage you to let all of it go, all the things of the world. Love one another. Love Yahuwah, your Elohim, with all your heart, with all your strength, with all your being, and everything that is within you. And love your brother, your neighbor, as you love yourself. Those are the two greatest. And upon this, you cannot possibly break Torah. How can you break the Torah if you're living out those two precepts? You will love Yah, and you will love his people. So, Shema, hear, listen, and do. If you're Yasra'el, this shouldn't be difficult for you. If you want to be Yasra'el, it shouldn't be difficult for you. Anyways, guys, we love you. We hope that you'll seek Yah for yourself. Seek his word. Let go of all your pretenses. Let go of all your preconceived notions. And seek him with all that is within you. All right, thanks.